Welcome to the Music for Transformation interview series, where I get to interview amazing people who use music to enhance their own lives and that of other people as well. So first of all, just hit that subscribe button now and enjoy the interview. I'm delighted to be joined today by someone I would call a friend, Mr. Ray Coates. How are you, Ray?
I'm fine, thank you, James, and definitely you can call me a friend, 100%.
That sounds good to me. That sounds good to
Cool.
me. So let me, for those of you watching, listening, let me explain a little bit about Ray. I'm just going to read some information from his extensive bio because he's doing some amazing things. So he's a singer, songwriter, a poet, a public speaker, and an actor. So very much in those performance roles. I'm not going to say the next bit because I'm going to let you actually tell your story. And there's definitely a background story here. But he's been a singer-songwriter for over 40 years. He's released originally written music, including a charity single, The Voice Within, in 2010 to raise funds and awareness of head and neck cancer. He's also been involved in the Voice Within project, which was about connecting people from diverse backgrounds by means of one song and one voice, which I love. And there's a lot of similarities between what we do, Ray. So, that's really great. He's reached a global audience. He's been in contact with award-winning filmmakers, best-selling authors. He's done songs, music for cancer documentaries. It kind of goes on and goes on and goes on. So I'll put this information in the show notes and you can find out a little bit more about him as well. He also writes songs for people. So if you want a specific song, he calls them DNA songs, your unique DNA songs, which I love, then he does that as well. And basically, yeah, there's loads going on, isn't it? You've got speaking events coming up. You've got loads going on. So thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your busy schedule. Ray, I'd like to start, although, yes, we're certainly going to talk lots about music and how it's helped you and how it's helped, or how you use music to help other people as well. But your story, and you know what I'm referring to, your story is obviously a big part of this, isn't it? So if I just give you an open question, tell us a little bit about your background, Ray, and your story.
Totally. Well, thank you, James. I think the interesting thing, I'm going to start before I go into the account of where things really opened up for me even more in terms of the voice and creativity, is an acknowledgement of the voice within and yourself. It is a year ago today that you became more actively involved in supporting me to find ways to offer my creativity to more. And the Voice Within became connected with the homeless prevention organisation Shelter. And you probably recall last year, I jumped on a couple of calls with you and you supported me through that. So what is behind the Voice Within? It's a song that was written 2 years after I experienced throat cancer. And that was 2008. Everything was fine before then. Everything was rosy. Life was normal. 5 children, married, working. And then one day I found a lump on the side of my neck. And obviously I think progressively it had grown over a period of time. Went through the route of GP, various consultations, and then was obviously given the news that I had throat cancer. That led to the inability to speak for easily an entire year. And it's very difficult sometimes for people to understand when we have a voice and we use a voice every single day of our life, what's life like when you don't have it? And that was a profound effect on me. And of course, living that experience at the time, I couldn't think about anything else apart from what I was experiencing. Now I've had the time to look back and through that experience, realize how powerful the voice is and how powerful creativity is, which is why I do what I do, because, it's such an important thing. The individuality of us and the voice is precious. So that's basically a very, very profound time of my life, very much so.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, and obviously so pleased that you got through that experience. And it's John DeMartini who's very big on values in the personal development world, and what he says is our values in life often stem from our voids if something is missing. I think this is a great example, because we know clearly what was missing in that sense. Your voice was missing, so now you value your voice, and you value being able to use that voice for good creatively. So that makes perfect sense to me. So yeah, that's wonderful.
I appreciate that.
Would you say, again, just to get a little bit of personal development in there, you always come across as someone who is very high on gratitude. You seem to be very grateful. Just a question on that. Have you always been that way, or is it personal development that's got you into that, or is it the fact of if you lose something, that's when you realize how grateful you are to have it back again? Could you shed any light on that for me?
Totally. That's such an epic question. That really, really is, because I think you've just summed up in a question a switch in my life. Because a lot of my previous experience was coming from a position of less. So I spent a lot of time in my previous life before personal development thinking about what I didn't have, what I couldn't do. And I'm not necessarily referring to my cancer experience, because in some ways when I was in the middle of that, that's understandable. But I'm talking about after that. And I would say probably in the last year particularly, through a lot of personal development work, that I start every single day with gratitude. Some days it's slightly harder than others. I think that's just being real and honest. But I endeavor to think of what I have as opposed to what I don't have. And the funny thing is, when you realize the abundance that you have and the more that you have, you would understand this fully. That's what you attract.
That's so true.
That's what I've experienced. And, and honestly, I'm not saying this, I say this from a grateful heart. I include you in that. You and I have crossed paths in the last just over a year. And it's funny how we seem to be kind of sharing, sort of similar platforms, different places. And I look at that and I think, yes, because it's about more. It's about more. And I think gratitude, when you are, it attracts more. And that's definitely been my experience in the last year for sure, but not necessarily before then.
That's brilliant. Thanks once again for your honesty, and that's amazing. And I'm grateful, for want of a better word, to be part of that journey. And I just want to discuss or make a statement here in regards to something I thought listening to your answer there. Another interesting thing is we're both involved in music as songwriters. You call yourself a singer-songwriter, or I sort of call myself a songwriter. I don't usually add the singer bit on, but we're pretty much, doing very similar things. So we could see ourselves as being in competition, which once again is a scarcity mindset. But I think certainly from my point of view, and I'm 99% sure it's the case for you as well, we're actually more about, well, how can we use this together to complement each other so that, together we are stronger. And that's
totally. Yeah. Well, one voice. If you have a song, you have a song, an a cappella song, no musical instruments, a voice. The voice is a beautiful, incredible thing. Think of a choir. Think of a choir. You may then start taking individuals away from the choir and say, okay, we'll take you out, we'll take you out, we'll take you out. Yes, okay, you're still going to get a sound, but the amplification and the harmony and the unity and the power of combined voices, sharing your voice. If we were to sing together, I'm not saying we're going to do that now, but if we were to sing together, our voices are different. So do you get where I'm coming from? That's how I look at it.
Absolutely.
You, James, what you do, and I do what I do. There is no competition, because we do what we do differently. But also the beautiful thing is the potential in all areas of bringing elements of each other together. And today's an example, and I'm very, very grateful to you for opening up that space for me.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Ray. Yeah, absolutely spot on. So there's some business advice, life advice right there. So there's so many nuggets already coming out of this interview. So let's start to focus on the music then. So music has obviously been a major part of your life. What does, first of all, let's take the customers, the listeners out of the equation for the minute. What does music do for you, Ray?
It makes my blood flow. It helps me to breathe. I remember a few years ago, part of personal development, I came across a mindset video that talked about the word abracadabra. Obviously, we know the magical use of the word, and one of the root meanings of the word, in its original language form, is I create as I speak. I create as I speak. And for me, I'm alive anyway, but I am more alive. I feel on a whole different high vibration level, on a soul level, on a connection level, more when I'm listening to music, creating music, and also sharing music. You know, it's like a meal. You can have a meal on your own. You can have a meal on your own and you can enjoy that food. But when you're in company, and I've used this in some social media content recently, people use the phrase breaking bread, when we break bread together. So I think of music as that connection of us as an entire being and as an entire species. You know, it brings people together in that oneness that we have anyway. So I flow, and I feel, I suppose in some ways, soaring, floating, transcending when I'm involved in musical, particularly creatively.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's brilliant. And what you were saying there makes me think you're absolutely right in terms of music can be a universal language. Even if you might write songs in English, there can be other people who don't speak English, but they might not understand the lyrics, but they'll still be able to relate to the music. And that's what music can do, can't it? Bring people together so that it's a shared experience. And obviously there's lots of powerful examples of that, isn't there? You know, the Live Aid things, etc., where they're using music to bring the whole world together for a central cause. And what I like about what you've done, Ray, is you spoke about how music helps you, how it's really part of you. But then I thought you'd go into the fact that you like sharing it with other people. So how does what you do help benefit other people?
I think it opens people up to the truest, incredible, miraculous people that they are. We live in a society that, again, is less. The amount of times recently I've experienced people saying, you know, I used to write a little bit of poetry. I used to do some painting. And I kind of think, well, what happened? What happened? What changed? You know, and people say, well, you know, we're now in an adult world. And, you know, I watched an interview with you recently. And again, you know, this is coming from an authentic place. And you shared your journey of how you made a switch, you made a change. And I truly believe in society, even if it's not in as full a form as we are creatively, because it is our purpose and our work currently. We've made a switch of that transference. Others have that within them. I mean, my mantra, one of my mantras, or the words that keep going through me is Henry David Thoreau. And he said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to their grave with their song still in them. And when I heard those words, I thought, not me. You know, I've shared my throat cancer experience, and I thought, I'm not going to be that person. I've got so many songs inside me. But here's the point. so is every other single human being alive. So my role now, which has defined even more since we've been in contact with each other, I've really connected with my purpose, which is to help other people to find their song. I'm doing things like, my own work of songwriting, expressing universal thoughts, if you like. But this is something that's grown. I didn't start out with the intention of doing this, but it's happened. And the magic of experiencing people who thought their story, their life, was just their story, their life. And it's incredible the life that people have lived. And I've had the privilege of creating their life, which is why it's your unique DNA song. It's them. In some ways, it's got nothing to do with me. I'm there absorbing them and then kind of turning that into my representation of them. And it's, the goosebumps are really going, because that's where I'm talking about the transcending. It's such a joy and a privilege that's beyond anything I think I can even explain.
Wow. And that's when you know that you are living life on purpose, isn't it? When it feels so good. And that's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So tell me about that process then. So let's say someone is listening to this or watching this and they say, oh, that sounds interesting, and they want to contact you. We worry about links later on and all of that. But, how do you actually do this then? So you sort of say it comes through you. How do you work with that person?
Well, I'm refining it and defining it, and I have been for a period of time now. How it works is an initial call. It's almost like, in some ways, a coaching call creatively. So everybody's different. That's the point. So I have a bit of a format where, of course, I want to engage with the individual, talk to them. We've already connected through various social media. So we've kind of shared. We've now come into a video space normally, and then I'm getting to know a little bit about them. Because of the nature of sharing quite personal things at times, of course, I'm protecting that space as well. Now, with some people, when I've reached the point of creation, which I'll talk about in a moment, I honour them, their feelings, because sometimes people want that just to be for them. It doesn't get shared. So that's really important for me to share that, because sometimes people are a little bit afraid of that. So I kind of say, oh, it's okay, this is yours. This is your unique DNA song. Other people want a message to be shared through the song. So they're okay then for that to be kind of gone out into wherever it goes out into, because that's part of their journey. But the essence of it is the individual. I would say the song writes itself. Of course, there is some there is some art, there is some craft, there is some intent in it. But it genuinely comes 100% from a heart space of them. So I get a feeling of their personality. Is this a song of release and vibrancy and joy and energy? Or is it perhaps a deeper, more reflective stage of their life? What's the context of it? Where do they want it to be? Do they want to use it as a form of a signature song? So in future, they may walk onto an event where they have a public engagement of some description. So there's that. So it is very, very varied. It's extremely varied. And the feeling of the song, musically and lyrically, 100% comes from the individual.
Wow. Yeah, I really like that. And to be honest, I don't think I knew fully. I hadn't looked into it fully exactly how you were going through that process. So yeah, that sounds brilliant. I can relate to it myself. I've written music for businesses, trainers, events, etc. And I think what I like about what you're doing is that it's so personalized, and once again that it is actually doing some good. So would you sort of say, when you write these songs, do you think that all your clients, your customers, are actually getting some healing from that process?
Totally. It's a musical form of journaling. Now, of course, I'm working with them, so often I sit with a pad and I let them know I'll say to the individual, I will be taking notes, but they're only for me, because obviously we're talking about I'm a qualified coach, I'm a qualified mentor, but there is a counselling element to it as well. And in a pastoral sense, I'm not necessarily going to go into detail, but I have experienced offering counselling in the past. So I am experienced in that, even though not necessarily academically. So I sit with the person, I sit with them. And the feedback I've had is exactly what you've just said, the personal healing of it, because effectively we're working through their emotions together. And that's the same for me. So back to the duality, if you said, what's the benefit to me? What's the benefit to them? It's the same. When I write, and you would fully understand this, it's an extremely cathartic experience, and I've learned to now, I'm quite comfortable with the vulnerability of it, which is another part of you that I love. Another part of you that I love, that, you do offer and you do share that side of you. And as two men, that is very, very powerful in the time that we live during, because the way I look at it is, it's not a negative statement. That makes more of a man. That makes more of a man because, we have tear ducts. We have the same things emotionally. And so for me, it's a shared experience. And I'm creating that space for the individual to release a part of them.
That's brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much. And you're totally right about the vulnerability. There is this kind of stigma still that, men can't cry and men can't be vulnerable. And as a man, I think you do feel that pressure, really. It probably stems from school, being bullied at school. So, but the interesting thing is that, like you say, the more you can be vulnerable, the more you realize that it's okay, and you do feel stronger because of it, and you're able to help other people more because of that as well. So that's really good that you've said that. I know myself exactly. So if just to give a little analogy of this process, I've worked with graphic artists before, and I'm not great on that side of things at all. I can't draw very well. Shouldn't say cards, but you know what I mean. I'm not really that visual type of person. But what they do is I give them information about my business or my mission or whatever, and they get an idea of how something should look visually. And that's what you're obviously doing, isn't it? In terms of sound and lyrics, you're just listening to that person and you just start getting ideas, don't you? I had someone send me a poem who wanted some background music for his wife's poetry, and he sent me a poem, and literally I'm reading it and bam, there it is. There's the song idea. There's the music. And that sometimes you listen back and you think, oh no, actually I was a bit wrong there. But generally, if you get it like that, right, that's good, isn't it? That's powerful coming through. Does that happen a lot for you? I know you've kind of indicated this, but constantly. How much information do you sort of need from these people before it's created? Does it come pretty quickly, or
100%? 100%. And some of the reasons it comes quickly, and this is partly a value I can share with the question you've just asked, is because I don't judge that at all. At all. Now, there are a couple of reasons I don't judge it. And one of the reasons is I'm not technically trained musically. And I'm happy to, oh, good. Oh, that's refreshing. I never knew that. That surprises me. Okay. Oh, well, that's good. So I kind of think, well, it's interesting. I actually spent time in a studio recently with a professional musician, and he was very open and honest. And he said, I find it really difficult to write songs. And he said, one of the reasons I do is, he said, because I'm technically trained. And that was actually very empowering for me. That was very humble of him and very empowering for me, because I've spent many years thinking, I can't read music. I can't write music. I've not academically trained. Well, I'm not saying that's a barrier for everybody. There's been some incredible musicians and songwriters over the decades. Yeah. But what I am saying is I feel immediately and I absorb the energy of that person, and the conduit of me and the conduit of you opens ourselves up to whatever it is that arrives to us. And that spark it's beyond me. It's beyond me. You know, I just, every time I experience it, sometimes I've written songs recently. I wrote a song for somebody, which I'd like to leave a link on, called Heaven in a Breath. Heaven in a Breath. And I won't go into the life story of the individual, but somebody who'd experienced extreme abuse, and that's public. You know, she shared that publicly, and she was telling me her life account. Oh, my goodness me! You know, the emotion of this, and the power that came through that song was her, 100% her.
That's incredible. Wow. Yeah. When you get that, you really feel fulfilled knowing that you're really helping someone in that way. So yeah, that's incredible. Something I wanted to ask you about then, the issue in a way sometimes with music is, of course, that everybody has their preferred styles. They have their preferred genres, and lots of people like lots of genres. But do people come to you and say, well, I really want this kind of genre? Or is it always just literally an open canvas? Do you write in different genres? How does that sort of work?
Yeah, great question. Often in part that initial consultation call, I will ask what kind of musical, backgrounds they have, what things they like to listen to, you know, who they connect with. Generally speaking, because I've spent a little bit of time with them, I kind of get the feeling of who they are, what they listen to, the kind of vibe of them, if you like, which often would be the kind of music they would listen to. There have been occasions where somebody has said to me, you know, can you make it a little bit more soulful? For example, I can think of one client who did that. And that for me, and not that I can't write soulful, but that presented a challenge because I then had to be specific. So I think in my development as a songwriter, which is an ongoing thing, I remember Paul McCartney saying, why do you think that I still write love songs? Because I haven't written the perfect love song yet. And you think, what? What? You're joking, aren't you? But that's the case. You know, we will continue to do what we do because we are always looking for that definitive, which in some ways doesn't exist because it's a constant creation. So I enjoyed that and I welcomed that because that gave the opportunity for me to be more and for me to create more. So I don't specify, but if anybody did want to specify, 100%, again, because it's all about them. It's all about their experience and the magic of it, having your own personally written song. You know, it's precious. It's precious.
It certainly is. Yeah, absolutely. And I think my experience is if I've written a song for someone and they are looking for a specific kind of sound and a specific genre, it does put a little bit more pressure on you because we all write in a certain way. We all prefer certain genres, and we all, even if we like listening to a certain genre, we don't necessarily fully always write in that way. I think everyone does have their personal style, but of course, as songwriters, you can still deviate, you can push the boundaries. And we both know, Ray, I'm sure everybody out there will know, you can write a song and it can get interpreted in so many different ways and created in so many different genres.
Well, the interesting thing,
go on.
Sorry, just jumped into my head with Heaven in a Breath. The individual who approached me to write the song sent me a YouTube link to Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah. So when you were talking about pressure a moment ago, you think, wow, okay. Now, I am not saying that the song Heaven in a Breath is an equal representation of Bohemian Rhapsody, but there were elements then that became contained within that. And the other thing is that Emily, who I wrote the song for, and she's publicly shared this, so there's no issue there at all. I actually asked her to do voice clips of her breathing, various voice clips of her breathing. And I then weaved those within the song. Wow. Some of them I actually reversed. So I did them as a sort of backwards breath. And it created in the middle section and the final section, her breath and her actually saying Heaven in a Breath, which has kind of led on to more creative things from me as well. So, you know, the more sometimes that's desired, Bohemian Rhapsody, that's a big target, yeah? And but it pulled more out of me. It pulled more out of me because I wanted to give her more. And I think that's just the beauty of creation. It really is. It breeds more.
Wow. Just in a quick answer, just a one-word answer.
Yeah.
Did you throw in, for that Bohemian Rhapsody one, did you throw in a few Galileos or did you avoid that?
I did not, James.
No, fair enough. We'll leave that to Queen, I think.
Certain ranges I don't think I can reach.
Here's another quick question as well, because I've had another question in my mind that I want to come to, but just very quickly, do you, for writing these personalized DNA songs, do you always sing, or does sometimes the client sing?
Currently, I always sing, but I think there is a doorway open for others too. I do have just briefly a songwriting program. I know there'll be links here because, again, I believe in that more. So if somebody can't necessarily or doesn't want to, for me to write the song, I've set up a program that enables them to. So, yeah, there is the opportunity for that 100% because it's bespoke. That's the point.
Brilliant. And I can see potential advantages in that as well. One thing I sort of find is whether it's a song, whether it's something like a guided meditation or visualization or positive affirmations, obviously, if it's someone else's voice, you kind of know consciously that it's not your own voice. Whereas obviously, if you've got a singer and you are singing it, and maybe it's some positive lyrics, I write a lot of songs with positive lyrics, the empowerment songwriting. And if they're actually singing it, it's really like it's really them.
Yeah,
so I just sort of wondered that.
Good point. No, that's good.
And also, we both know that singing is healing in itself.
Yeah.
It's a way of self-expression. And of course, the songwriting, you already said about the power of journaling and writing things down. So I imagine that though taking those courses with you can be really powerful. You might not be looking to be a songwriter to write a #1 hit or go through the music industry, but as a healing tool, as a self-expression tool, I think it could be really powerful. And I'm guessing that's sort of one of the reasons why you're doing it. Is that correct?
Totally. So because everybody has it in them, back to Henry David Thoreau, and I want that opportunity. Maybe I'm not experiencing this yet, but for men to express themselves and for men to express themselves to those they love. I've written songs and still do for those that I love. And it's a wonderful way of communicating your feelings. So I think what a power that is within a relationship.
Yeah.
To actually share that gift of, if I, link up with Joe and help Joe to write that song for his loved one, that makes their relationship better. So it's just more, share. That's what life is all about.
That's lovely. Yeah, I know this is your interview, but I'll just share a quick story, if I may.
Let's go.
When I proposed to my wife, she didn't know I was going to propose to her to start with, but then we went back to the car and I just put on a CD of 2 songs that I had been in the recording studio to create. So of course, she was flowing with tears. So that was, that was a real special moment that I could do that. So.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I like I say, I've had a question for a while, and I'm imagining that you're writing these songs for people in their lives. Now, I'm imagining for the majority of people, and I could be wrong here, so you can shed some light on this in a minute, but it might be about kind of where they are now. But of course, in people's lives, you've already said that people have gone through trauma, etc. Now, life generally doesn't go in a straight line. It goes up and down and round and round, etc. So I'm imagining this is kind of like a concept album, if you like, where it's about someone's life. And I've got in my head that potentially there's probably all the different genres of music out there. They've had some trauma in their life. That might be the death metal and, through to real relaxing times and joyful times. There's so many different aspects of music in there that you really could, going through someone's life, could be every single genre out there. Have you ever written an album of music for someone that kind of goes through all the different stages of their life?
I have not. I came very close to it. There was somebody who approached me to write 5 songs uniquely for them. There were elements of family within that. It didn't come to fruition, but that was just that circumstance. Have I considered the possibility of that? 100%, definitely, because you're right. You're totally right. Now, I've done that within a song. I'm using this as an example because I know I can share this. Heaven in a Breath. I mean, if we think of Bohemian Rhapsody, that's in a way what that song is. You know, it's got very different elements and shades. And I remember having the privilege in the 80s of seeing Queen, seeing them perform at Wembley Arena. And part of the song, because it is so intricately produced, they basically play the original song. So they perform the beginning of the song live, and then the end of it, where it obviously builds and lifts and all of the different Galileos, etc., as you just said, they then just put on the recording of that. So within the song Heaven in a Breath, because of who it was for and what it was about, I wanted to create something similar, which was very floating, tranquil, reflective, and then bang, into power. So it's actually become quite a rock type song in the different elements of it. But within an album, yeah, that would be wonderful. It'd be wonderful to capture somebody in the several songs of their life.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. How have people responded to these songs in terms of, you've kind of mentioned a couple of these, but in terms of some of the benefits that people have had from actually getting their own unique DNA song?
They've opened up their creativity in many instances. So I'm working offline with some people who have, I've worked almost in a collaborative poetry with individuals. So there have been some people who've wanted to share their creative side. So lyrically, and sometimes that's actually created where, I'm not saying this in a negative way, I've had to make them aware of if they wanted to be named in the potential of this song. So as a joint lyricist. So there's another element there, because that's actually happened on a couple of occasions and has happened recently, where we have licensed the song as joint lyricists. So do you kind of get where I'm coming from? There's so many different strands to it. It's expansive. And the expression has been, I think that probably the commonality has been a mirror to the soul. A mirror to my soul is how it's been expressed a couple of times. People have said how they felt ascended into heaven. They felt elevated and lifted by the experience of hearing them in a song. And the lyrics are born out of the conversation, because I'm predominantly a lyricist, predominantly. So I feed off of inspiration. You know, I'm constantly hearing, expression. So when I sit with this person and they start telling me, they know when they get the song back, they know it's them, because a lot of the expressions are centered on their shared experience of life. So it's, it just opens people up to more and how incredible they are.
Wow. Yeah, love that. How powerful, and again, I know we've touched on it, how powerful are words then, Ray? Because you said you're mainly that lyricist, if you like. How powerful are words in people's lives?
You can read a post in social media. Let's kind of bring it down to social media content. You can read an expression either in social media or in a book that will change your life. You've shared that. You've read something, and I've always been influenced by words. It started for me. I started writing poetry when I was, I think, about 7 or 8, and reading. I don't read as much presently because I'm, very productive with other things that I'm doing. But the combination of the two, if you get words added with the right tone of music, that is life-changing. I'm going to go high here. Think of Imagine, John Lennon. Yeah, that is, the embodiment of power, the reflection of what really matters. We just imagine this is what the world could be like. And you think currently in the world that we live in, it transcends the current experience. Music can lift you, and words combined can lift you. To think of hope, strength, it's wow.
So true. And it's always been used, doesn't it? You know, if you think of, I just, in my head, I just thought, as you were saying that, I thought of the film Zulu with Michael Caine, and the Zulus were doing their war chant. So the British started singing. And obviously, you know, I don't personally know what that song was about, but I imagine it was some kind of empowering lyrics or something like that. But they're starting singing. So they're using music to create that feeling of power and build up their courage, etc. So no, you're absolutely right. It is so powerful. And that's obviously what I've been doing with my empowerment songs as well. So like I say, we're sort of doing very similar things in just different ways.
Yeah.
You know, my albums are about the lyrics being all geared towards personal development, because like you said, words can change people's life. They can change people's perceptions. They can educate people. But when you combine that with the melody, with the rhythm, all of those other aspects that make up a song, it's so much more powerful, isn't it?
Totally. If you think of what we do, there are messages being shared every day. There's messages being shared every day. A lot of them, sadly, currently are based on fear, based on division. So if you start hearing messages of power, what you're doing, and then, you know, you start watching videos and you start reading books, that becomes your reality. That is your world, which is what it is, because we are the key. We are the key to us. And the beautiful thing about people like yourself, James, is there's no withholding. There's no withholding. You know, we live in a world of trying to hold on to things. And I know from our last year experience, that played a part in where I am now. Fact, you, and I know I can really, really share this, you opened me up last year completely. So the me I am now, where I am now, you have contributed to that. So I look at that as we all share together in more. You know, I mean, the name of what you're doing in the Anthem is just so, that aligns and connects with me deeply. 2 years after cancer, I hadn't written at all, nothing at all, not a single word. I'm a prolific lyricist, and then connecting with you and others, and just opening up, and your heart. You know, that's it for me. And it's not a big up to you. It's just natural. That's how I feel. You've played a part in bringing me to where I am now.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Ray. Something I just want to say, because again, I like to always try and give as much value to anyone that's watching, listening. Within anyone, there'll be an aspect of you that wants to hold back, that doesn't want to share, that focuses on the scarcity. And again, I've certainly got that. But once again, personal development has opened me out to really want to help more, and want to share. And as we said earlier, you know, then you really can complement each other and really, really help each other. So I just want to sort of say that, you know, it's always about being aware of what's going on in your head. Are you feeling like you want to play the Scrooge role and keep everything to yourself? Or, you know, if you find that you can be sharing, I do genuinely believe that you will get it back again from the universe. So yeah, it's always something to be aware of. Now, something I wanted to comment on, what was it that I wanted to comment on earlier? Okay, let's say, so you said you weren't writing. Why was that? After your cancer, why weren't you writing?
A complete emotional deprivation. A complete emotional deprivation. Yeah, we talk about blockage. It was I wouldn't say it was I mean, in some ways a removal. Obviously, I can say this, the cancer was removed, and of course, that was good. But I think as a result of that, I lost a part of me. I remember a visitation to the house from a kind of GP/counsellor. And she said to me in the kitchen, and I haven't shared this recently, she said, "You do realise you're grieving," to me. And I absolutely wept. I absolutely wept, because her words were the truth that I didn't fully realize. Now I can look back and I can think of that feeling of loss, if you like, that I didn't realize at the time fully. So I think for 2 years, in some ways, I was just dealing physically with how I felt. I was dealing with emotionally with how everybody else felt about what I was experiencing, dealing with the loss for everybody else. And then the voice within came, and that's no exaggeration. So as a song, my feeling was, I don't want anybody to feel how I felt. And it still drives me now. It still motivates me now. So when people talk about, they feel isolated, they feel disconnected, especially through my creativity, I use that to help them to realize there's more for them. There's more for them. So, that was the reason, really. I think I was just dealing with everything I was dealing with, and I didn't have any creative spark, maybe just a glimmer. That's why I use the lyric in the song as well, because I'm a believer in sometimes people are a glimmer in their lives, and our role as human beings, as much as we can, is to fan the flames. To kind of light up that spark more. And therefore we benefit, they benefit, society benefits.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for your honesty and vulnerability there. And I think the interesting thing is we all go through traumas and feelings of loss and grieving process in our lives, sometimes through an obvious thing, such as a death of a loved one. And other times it's just a small thing, like, a little bit, you can feel like a friendship drifting away from you, or a relationship drifting away from you. And there's still that grieving process. But I think, as we've alluded to a couple of times, if you are able to take those thoughts out of your head and somehow release those emotions. So it could be through writing things down, it could be through journaling, it could be through some creative thing. It's so beneficial actually doing that. I mean, I know that I have written songs with various themes based upon my current situation in my life. So I've written songs about lost love, I've written songs about gained love, and obviously the real empowerment side of things is really because personal development transformed my mindset and transformed my life. So again, it's really coming from my heart and soul, but that is the way I express myself. So I would urge, again, anyone watching, listening, doesn't have to be music, but find a way of getting rid of those stuck emotions, that stuck energy, those low-level vibrations of guilt, shame, embarrassment, grieving process. It all needs to come out. And of course, if you can do it in a way that's actually going to be creative, because you love that word creativity, Ray, then it's, it can, what you can do is you can turn what was a very negative situation into something really, really positive. And I love that about, what you've been able to do, Ray. So it has been, did you want to comment on that? Or
yeah, just very briefly. I went through a period of deep depression after what I experienced, and I remember reading, I think I did a little bit of research online on depression, and it said to actually organize, your drawers, your room, your files, your cabinets, to kind of start putting stuff away and, making stuff organized. And it works, and it worked. Now, if you think about it, the process of actually writing a song is that we are constructing our thoughts. We are putting them into words or into music, or we're doing that for others, encouraging others to do that. So I think just that orderly nature of structure through creativity, that actually helps to order those thoughts, to put them as thoughts. And that's why I compared it to journaling. Journaling is a good physical way of actually annotating feelings. And then we actually unconstruct it, which then helps us to, just release those thoughts and feelings.
It's a great example. Thank you ever so much. This conversation has been so fascinating for me. It's, I love who you are. I love the work that you do and the goodness you're doing in the world. So I understand that you have like a special offer for someone, if anyone's listening to this interview, to do with your DNA song, isn't it? Giving them something else. Would you like to explain what that is?
Absolutely. I work in collaboration with my partner in rhyme, as I refer to her, my partner, Michelle Roach. We've worked on some poetry together. She's an artist, and she is the visual. There's just a very, very couple of examples just in the background there of Michelle's art related to my music. So what we feel at this current time is, and creativity is our source of financial energy presently. So Michelle's doing her artwork. So with each unique DNA song, and Michelle, we have agreed on this, she said she is prepared to create an individualized piece of artwork to complement the songs that I offer. And that would be without charge. So we would link together in that the message that's through the song, that then Michelle would create a piece of visual artwork to represent that individual in their own unique DNA song without charge.
That's brilliant. I love that in so many ways, because once again, it's different creative people coming together, using their gifts to create something that benefits the wider population more. So I really like that. And just to reinforce the power of that, the more senses you can activate. So as in, let's look what we've got here. We've got the sound, both through lyrics and the melody, and then we've got the visual aspects as well in terms of that artwork. The more you can actually activate those senses, the greater positive response that you're actually going to have. So that's brilliant. That's genius. Totally, excellent. Totally. So I'm sure there are some people that are at the very least hopefully intrigued by this. So how do people contact you? I will put all the details in the show notes, but what's the best way of connecting with you or contacting you, Ray?
The best way is through the website, because all social media links are there. So it's raycoatesvoice.com. I've got Facebook page link there, Instagram, etc. I'm very active in social media. I'm in Facebook, Instagram all the time. Don't tend to use Twitter as much. That's just a personal preference thing. So everything for me is Ray Coates Voice. And, the listeners, your audience, others can maybe understand that more fully now because of the loss for a period of time. And I want to amplify other people. I want to open up their voice more in whatever ways that is. So website, raycoatesvoice.com. That's
brilliant. That's wonderful. Do you know what? I'm going to finish up with a question, and I was going to choose another one, but I've just had this question come into my mind. Okay, so we'll finish up with this question. Can just be a short answer. How would you, bearing in mind as well, you had your cancer and you're obviously a little bit worried then, but we've got through that. So, and you're doing some great stuff. How would you like Ray Coates to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for inspiring others to find their own unique voice through connecting in creativity.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Ray, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege. Thank you ever so much for taking time out of your day to be part of this interview.
Thank you so much, James.
Thank you so much for watching. 3 quick things to do now. 1, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. 2, go to the inneranthem.com website and access your free video series, the 3-minute music life hack, so you can find out how to use music to enhance your life. And thirdly, get your own copy of the Empowerment Songs albums at the inneranthem.com website.